What's going on, YouTube? This is Jim Infantis, and today I want to talk to you guys about A Boy and His Blob. One of my fondest memories of being a child was playing the Nintendo Entertainment System. And obviously, one of the coolest games that I played was A Boy and His Blob. Now, I never actually owned the game. Once a month, my mom would take me to the video store. For us, it was called 16,000 Videos with an exclamation point at the end. And they also had a very small selection of video games, and I think it was like $3 to rent a video game. If you brought it in, if you rented it Friday, you could drop it off by Sunday night. When I got a little bit older, I'd take my bike up to the store there, and then they eventually turned into Blockbuster, and eventually I think the whole strip mall was demolished. There goes my childhood. Thanks, guys. No. But anyways, I used to go up there and play, and or get the game and bring it home, or what I get my mom would get me, whatever. And it was just such a fun game. It was very challenging, and a lot of times I would actually rent this game. That's why I'm talking about that, because I never did own it. It's a very hard game, and Nintendo games did not have a save system. Most of them, there's obviously no saving to the cartridge, or very, very minimal. Most of it was like written down passwords or everything, but Boy and His Blob had to be beaten in one sitting, and it wasn't until I was much older, via emulation, that I actually go back and actually stake claim in Blobonia, which was the planet that the Blob was from, and finally beat it. But as a child, it always best to me because it was pretty difficult. The old Nintendo games were quite a challenge. This game really didn't tell you much of anything. You were a boy and you had a blob, and that was really about it. The blob would follow you around, and you could feed him jelly beans of all things. And if you fed him a jelly bean, he would turn into something. Different jelly beans had different characteristics. There was like ketchup jelly beans and licorice jelly beans and blueberry jelly beans, and but again, you didn't have a ton of them, so you had to be careful when you used them. The blob could turn into things like a ladder or a hole to fall through. You could turn into a bubble and like slowly descend down a cliff, or an umbrella. Different things, different tools that allowed you to explore this world. And you could go underneath your house in this labyrinth of cave systems. There was tons and tons of weird caves and monsters and like snakes and spiders and pits and all that sort of thing. And try to find treasure. Or you could turn the blob into a rocket and launch him to Blobonia, where you would try to get through. Now, as I found out a little bit later, you actually had to do both. But I didn't know that at the time, just a little kid running around trying to figure it out, and it was very, very difficult. Well, games are different today than they were back then, and the new remake of Boy and His Blob, which is now live on PlayStation, certain it's on Wii and Xbox as well, but I picked it up for PlayStation 4 for a whopping $8, and it is like freaking like nostalgia in a cup, okay? I love this game. It's not like the old one where it's just open world exploration. Everything is broken down into bite-sized pieces. And I think that works. The days of just this open world, beat it in one sitting, that just doesn't happen anymore. So it had to be modernized. So the levels are bite-sized, and now there are 3 treasures in each level. And the only way to get the treasure is to be the boy standing next to the treasure. The blob will follow you and then eat it. That's the only way to get. You can't throw like the blob over by himself. You have to be standing next to it. Some of the treasures are very easy to find. They're like right in your path. Some of them require a little more thought. Nothing too hard yet. I'm on the second level, like the second world. You start off in the jungle, and then you go to looks like the city, and then the caves. Very reminiscent of the first one. Actually, the theme song is still in there. Dun, 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 dun. So it's all there. The game is just like it's like homage to the old one. It's so much fun. One of the things I don't like though is now your jelly beans. There's actually a wheel. You actually have this reticle of like, here's all the possible jelly beans you could have. Most levels only give you 2 or 3. As you start progressing in the game, you start getting more and more tools. But like for the first couple levels, you'll have like a hole and a ladder. That's it. Well, there's not really a lot of puzzling with a hole and a ladder. You fall down or you climb up. That's it. So the treasure chests that are like really hard to find obviously aren't that hard. As you get a little bit farther on, you have to start kind of like manipulating where the blob stands, throw something and then jump right afterwards, or kind of like you have to play a little bit more. Now, it does take a few seconds for the blob to pick up the jelly bean, eat it, and do what he does. So it's not like rapid, like quick time event type things, but it just requires a little more thought. There's more enemies in the game that you have to manipulate, and the boy cannot take any damage at all. He dies. So the blob has to do all the heavy lifting, whether it's turn him into an anvil and push him off a cliff, or make a hole and they drop in, or roll a ball at them and blow them up. There's a couple different ways to take out, and each enemy is different too. They all have different like strengths and weaknesses. So you have to kind of figure out the best way to traverse. But that's the thing that frustrates me, is that they kind of spoon feed you on the jelly beans that you get, and they don't have names anymore. It's just jelly bean. And when you do the wheel, it's just like, okay, this is the ladder jelly bean. This is the whatever. And it was kind of fun in the old one, trying to figure out what jelly bean did what. Obviously, you wasted them, and once you figured it out, it was okay. But having a limited quantity of jelly beans particularly made it interesting, because you had to really think about, like, do I want to do this? Like, I don't know what's around that next corner. I only have 4 of these jelly beans left. Is it worth using one now, or should I wait? Is there a better way to progress through this area? And in that sense, that's what I miss about the old one, was a lot of that kind of puzzle element is still missing, or gone, because it's these bite-sized pieces, and you have infinite amount of jelly beans. So if you throw a jelly bean and the ladder goes up like an inch over where you wanted it to go up, no big deal. Throw another jelly bean and climb up. As where it kind of was a little more impact when you had to think about it before. So that's something I'm not a huge fan of. Once you beat the puzzle of each level, you go back to your fort or whatever. The kid lives in a treehouse at the beginning. It doesn't make sense, okay? It doesn't have to. And it opens up a challenge map that you can beat. If you beat the challenge map, which is just solely get to the end, there's no treasures. They're usually a lot harder. Those are a lot more entertaining maps than the kind of the main story maps. But again, unlimited jelly beans, that sort of thing. On the challenge maps, however, if you die, it takes you back to the beginning, as opposed to all the other maps in the game where there's like a lot of little checkpoints and stuff. So when you beat those, that unlocks a little Easter egg inside, not Easter egg, but like a little like developer note. So you can see like kind of like behind the scenes, like bonus features. You could see like screen tests of like this little boy holding like a stuffed animal to kind of like they could do motion capture with him. A lot of sketches, a lot of little notes on like, we want the blob to look like this, we want the boy to do this. It's kind of neat if you wanted it. You don't have to do any of that. You could just blow through the main story, and I say story, it's not even a story, just the main set of levels, and you'd be fine. The other thing I don't like is throughout the game, there's a lot of signs that tell you like, hey, use a ladder. Hey, use a trampoline. Hey, use this. It's like, I think I can figure it out, We've got 2 jelly beans, okay? I got a ladder and a hole, and I need to go down. Well, the ladder's going to put me up. That's probably not going to help me. Okay, I'll try the hole and go down. So I don't really necessarily need that spoon-fed, like, okay, we get it. And I don't know if this game's marketed for, like, little 2-year-old boys or 33-year-old men. 33-year-old men, right? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure but there are some stuff in there that's a little more challenging that I'm like, okay, maybe a younger person wouldn't necessarily understand this, but it's just nostalgia in a cup mostly for me. I think somebody who's never played Boy and His Blob, the original one, I think it was actually called A Boy and His Blob, the Escape from Blobonia, or Trouble in Blobonia. David Crane's A Boy and His Blob, Trouble in Blobonia. If you haven't played that one and you're jumping into the new one, you're probably like, what the hell is this crappy game? What's going on here? But I wanted to show some love for it because it is a big part of who I am as a gamer. I did spend many hours as a child exploring this world, and it's cool to see it redone. It's cool to see it get the proper polish and just, like, it's fun again. It's cool. It's not one of those games, though, that I think you would sit down and just play for hours at end. It's one of those where, like, okay, I've had enough. I'll do like a little bit. Like I'll go do my Halo dailies. I'll go do a race in Forza. Then I'll go do a little Boy and His Blob. Oh, somebody's going to play, and I'll jump around kind of thing. I don't necessarily think it's something you're just going to sit down and just play like hardcore for like 12 hours straight. I mean, maybe. Good for you. I don't know how long the game is. Again, it's my first impressions. I got through the first world. I got all 30 treasure chests. I did all the challenge maps, so it took me about 5 hours, so I'm guessing probably 15 to 20 hours, unless you're really, really good and you can do it less, but it's $8. I mean, come on, show some love. So I love that they're taking old games and kind of putting some polish on them. I would love to see a remake of Jackal. I would love to see a remake of Karnov. Man, I'm really getting deep. People are like, okay, unsubscribe. Karnov? What the hell's Karnov? Check it out. It's cool. Karnov. Jackal, totally. I mean, come on, Jackal. Please make Jackal. There's so many old games. Adventure, just the original event, or Pitfall. Pitfall for the original Atari, Elevator Action. I would love to see some more of these old games come back. And this isn't just like we're putting all the games on a disc. This is like we're doing a brand new adventure. Like, there's probably people playing this, I can't imagine who, that don't know anything about the old one. Or like, oh, this is cool, I'm going to check it out. So, anyways, I just wanted to show some love out there. I think it's a great game. To the developers who made it, you did a great job. You rekindled some of my childhood, which is awesome. As it slowly slips away to the madness that is adulthood, there's just a wee bit of excitement in my heart still, my cold, dying heart for, you know, fun stuff. And this is really, really cool. So if you haven't checked it out, go look it up. It's $8, maybe it's $9, $10. I don't know what it is now. I got it on discount for PlayStation Plus. You can figure it out. I don't even know if it's on PC. So this is the worst freaking like promotion piece ever. I just wanted to tell you guys it's cool, give you some first impressions, and check it out. Put it in your library. I'm going to be doing a lot more indie game reviews here in the next couple weeks. We got Crypt of the Necro Dancer, Broforce, and The Witness all coming. I'll be doing videos about all those soon, so stay tuned for your little indie fix, at least things that I find interesting. I'll be getting them all on PlayStation because I got a ton of money on PlayStation, and I got a 2 terabyte hard drive, which is just yearning to be filled with old video game gems. So that's all I have for now. As always, I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.